Yo! Yo, I'm Ryan. I live in Cambodia. I make videos, but we call them VARTs. Video art, because it's funny. Ha 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 ha. Sounds like fart. We're gonna have some noise today. There's a lot of construction going on down below here. We're just gonna roll with it. It is super fucking annoying though. Just ignore it, just ignore it. It's so loud. International Living recently rated Cambodia the 12th best country to retire in the whole world. It's the second highest rated Asian country, just 3 spots behind Thailand. We're gonna have a look at the rating system. We're gonna see what they scored low in, what they scored high in, and I'm gonna tell you what I think, because my opinion matters. You think I'm super intelligent. You are hitting the thumbs up right now. Is Cambodia a good place to retire that's very quiet and doesn't have a lot of sound? Let's find out. I don't know. Shaking the fist doesn't work, then what can you do?
Y'all don't know people like this. 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 Y'all don't know people like this.
I think the background noise is nice. I think it's pleasant. I think people are gonna love it. So I guess International Living puts this ranking out every year. They rank 25 countries, the best 25 countries to retire in for that year. They determine it by assigning a rating under 10 categories. Those 10 categories are housing, benefits and discounts, visas and residence, fitting in and entertainment, development, climate, healthcare, governance. Oh, I just busted through my shirt. My muscles are getting so big. Opportunity, cost of living. Let's look at the categories that Cambodia performed best in. Cost of living, they got a 94, which is the 3rd best out of all the countries. Only Bali and Vietnam scored higher in this category than them. Of course, cost of living is probably the #1 thing that attracts people to Cambodia when it comes to retiring. The dollar goes further. You know what they say, if you don't got the dough, then maybe you go to Cambodia. It's a saying that a lot of people say. I think it's like what. Fitting in and entertainment, Cambodia scored an 82, which ties them overall at number 9. Number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9. So this category is about how easy is it to make friends? How much does it feel like home when you're living there? Can you find Frank's Red Hot Sauce? Are there things to do? Museums, exhibitions, movies that are in English?
Unchain me!
That's your seatbelt.
Because of the large expat population, I'd say that Cambodia has this category covered pretty well. I mean, they have mini putt, and that's all we really need. A mini putt course with a loop. What more could you ask for in life?
Oh, come on!
Yeah. Oh!
Oh, it's a free, you said it!
Governance, 78, which puts Cambodia 7th overall. So this is personal freedom, how much bureaucracy is in the country, how efficient is their banking system, how well did they handle COVID, just overall how safe and stable the country is. Cambodia actually ranked higher than Thailand, Italy, Ecuador, and even Spain in this category, which surprised me a little bit because in Cambodia there is a lack of freedom of speech. But then when you think about it, there is a lot of freedom here. You can open a business really easily. If I compare Cambodia to Ecuador, where I lived last, I went to buy a motorcycle in Ecuador. It took 3 weeks just to get the temporary plate that allowed me to take the motorcycle from the dealership. And then on top of that, I had to do more paperwork and stuff to get the actual physical plate. And then I had to do like an emissions test. In Cambodia, it was literally, here's my money. Here's the bike's registration. I'm on the bike now, I'm riding away. No paperwork, no fees, easy, a little bit of peasy. Oh, we got a new noise source, exciting. So let's look at the categories that Cambodia did poorly in. Climate. Cambodia actually ties for last on this list, and it's probably because it is bloody hot here. It's humid, you sweat a lot, and truth be told, we haven't even hit the hottest time of the year here yet. I think this category is subjective though. Maybe you like the heat, maybe you like to pour sweat out of all your orifices, but I do agree that the climate here is just too much. You have to plan around the heat, can't go out in the middle of the day, you gotta sleep with your aircon on. On this list, Ecuador actually ranks number 2, and I agree with that. I mean, I miss the Ecuador climate. It's always perfect, no aircon needed, no heat needed, doors open all the time, just perfect temperature inside and outside. For the category development, Cambodia scored a 66, which puts it at number 18 out of 25 countries. Development is about roads, it's about reliable internet, reliable electricity, public transit. I think this is a category that Cambodia is improving in every year. I don't see it being a problem here. Perhaps this number is lower because it takes the whole country into consideration, and there is probably a lack of development in the more rural areas. But in Phnom Penh, I'd say you don't have to worry about development at all. The only other category that Cambodia ranked in the lower 10 just so happens to be one of the most important categories when it comes to finding a place to essentially grow old and fall apart. Healthcare, 74, and I'm actually surprised that Cambodia ranked as high as it did in healthcare. Healthcare is improving in Cambodia, but most people will opt to go to Thailand, Malaysia, or Vietnam if they have a serious health problem when they're living in Cambodia. And these three places are on the list and they all rank higher than Cambodia. The general consensus between expats here is if they're gonna put you under to do something, then you should go somewhere else to do it. I have been to a hospital here and it seemed fine. I didn't really have any problems, but it was pretty basic stuff. It was just a checkup, really. Actually, they made me poop on command to get a stool sample. I pulled it off. A lot of people can't just do that, but I pulled it off. I didn't pull it off, like pull the poop off. I didn't pull the poop off of my... I squeezed it out, I guess is a better way to put it. Also, ambulances here are pretty unreliable. They don't want to pick you up unless they know you can pay for it, which means if you're like dying, there's a possibility that you're just gonna die, they might not pick you up because a dead person can't pay for the services. It sounds pretty bad, but these are things that have happened here. When it comes to ambulance workers, notice I didn't call them paramedics because I don't think you need to be a paramedic to work on an ambulance here. They're more of like a body shipping service. And let's face it, if you are an expat in Cambodia, you will probably die sooner than you would in your home country. That's a grim thing to say, but it's probably true. There are more diseases here: malaria, dengue fever, typhoid. In the US, there are 350 cases of typhoid in a year. In Cambodia, there are 24,000, which is a huge difference, especially considering the US population is about 20 times larger than Cambodia's. The roads in Cambodia are more dangerous, especially if you're riding a scooter, especially if you're an old man with bad reflexes and poor eyesight. But the number one cause for death in Cambodia for expats has to be drugs. You hear about it all the time. Sometimes it's disguised as fall or a heart attack, but they don't say why the person had a heart attack.
Copious amounts of bad cocaine.
Bad cocaine, not good for your health. Hopefully you're not picking up a drug habit while in retirement, but if you like to drink, you'll probably drink more when you're in Cambodia. Beer is in fact cheaper than water in most restaurants. Spirits are just as cheap. Booze is everywhere, and everywhere seems to want you to drink booze. It's also really hot here, so the drinks go down a little bit faster. Alcohol is not good for your health. Air pollution is pretty bad here. At least I think it is. You can't really find an accurate way to measure it. There's some places online that post readings, but I've been told that they filter the air before they put it through the reader there, so you don't really know how bad it is. But I lived in China. I know what bad air is like, and some days I come out here and I go, oh, the pollution is horrible. I can just kind of tell, you can almost taste it or smell it and see it in the air. Bad air, not good for your health. Unhealthy lifestyle plus bad healthcare system equals you're gonna die sooner. It's just not a good combo. That being said, a man once told me, I shit myself in the hallway today. Never grow old, Ryan. So maybe dying in your 70s isn't such a bad thing. I don't know. Other factors that make Cambodia a viable option for retirement: you can buy a condo here at a reasonable price. Now keep in mind, you can't buy property, you can't buy a ground floor apartment, but you can buy a unit in a condo building. Getting a visa that allows you to retire here is reasonably simple. You need to be over 55, you need to be unemployed, you need to be able to prove that you are retired, and you need to prove that you have the funds to support yourself. The cost of the visa is about $300 a year, but do keep in mind that right now they aren't issuing the retirement visas in Cambodia because of the COVID-19 situation. I'm sure that will change though, eventually, hopefully. Jeez. So overall, is Cambodia on my radar as a place to retire? Honestly, I don't think it is. I think the lack of good health care is a problem, and I think the heat is a lot to deal with as an old person. I mean, sweaty old people is kind of the worst thing ever. Shout out to Tontalina. I feel like Cambodia is kind of a young person's country. It's exciting, it's full of adventure. I don't know if I'm gonna want those things when I'm creeping around in my 60s, but I'm not gonna rule it out completely because the country is changing a lot. It's changing faster than almost any other country I've been to. And also, I don't really know what it's like to be old because, as you can see, I'm young and vibrant, supple, super supple, super supple. Remember Super Soakers? Super Soakers were super sweet. And that's it for this video, but I do have another one lined up for you. I got the top 6 or so reasons why I love living in Cambodia. So check that out next. And remember to take care, comb your hair. I'm out.
Prefer when I'm by myself. I don't wanna hang around y'all. Pray for good health. One day I'm really gon' ball. Fuck around and buy the whole mall. Breaking that cake. Flexing 700 in the